What the? What? Are you floating? How you doing that? What, ESP? Plasma magnet?
This is yoga.
What, are you an alien or something?
Hello, I'm Grayson Ottaway. This is Marvelous Videos. The yoga master Dhalsim first appeared in Street Fighter II, a breakthrough fighting game from Capcom. He's represented as a very humble and self-disciplined guy who depends on his inherent spirituality to remain calm and focused in the midst of conflict. He's presented in the game as a decent man and even an ideal figure to live by. He's also quite cool, and the agility of his body is nothing but a testament to his yoga talents. In accordance with his narrative, the skulls he carries around his neck are those of the village children who perished in a pandemic. He truly laments them and makes an effort to maintain a connection by donning their skulls. According to the game's plot, he's one of the nice men. He's even described as Ryu's tutor in the in-game language, the main protagonist of the game. The early original concept for Dhalsim during the creation of Street Fighter II was remarkably similar to Ganesha, a Hindu deity with 4 limbs in the face of an elephant. His first inspiration was Aghori Kombatant from Kerala, India, who donned a mask and worshipped Ganesha, like King dons a jaguar mask. Additionally, he was supposed to have several arms like Hindu deities. Ashura received this notion in Ashura's Wraith. So let's dig deep and take a look at the long-limbed, enigmatic Dhalsim in our video today. Before we get into it, a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to this channel. Very small click for you, but for us means a great deal. Thank you, and let's go. Dhalsim, history explored. A fighter from the Street Fighter video game series, Dhalsim originally appeared in Street Fighter II. He's an expert in yoga and has the capacity to flex his body and summon fire. Dhalsim is frequently shown with white eyes that lack pupils. He has a decent physique and routinely works out and lifts weights, but his waist and belly seem gaunt and out of proportion. He makes use of his extraordinarily long arms to gain the upper hand on opponents during battles by typically choosing to keep them at bay from a distance. His exclusive apparel consists of ripped yellow saffron shorts that are wrapped around his waist with a length of rope. He also has yellow saffron bracelets and ankle bands. Dhalsim resembles the Hindu ascetics renowned as kapalikas with his simple attire and skull jewelry, skull bearers. He occasionally wears hoop earrings, metallic bracelets, anklets, and 3 red stripes on his head. In the Marvel vs. Capcom series, he takes off what looks to be a one-shoulder shirt. However, in the Street Fighter Alpha series, he dons a turban, which he takes off before the fight. He carries the skulls of town children who perished. Dhalsim's alternative outfits, like those of Blanka and Urien, modify his skin tone, generally to a shade of yellow or grey that resembles the powder that Hindu holy men wrap their bodies in. He wears his turban rather than taking it off in Street Fighter V, where he has grown a long silver beard due to aging. Dhalsim now sports a white bindi on his forehead and additional red markings all over his upper torso in Street Fighter VI. Dhalsim is extremely serious, stoic, self-disciplined, meek, and when necessary, very harsh. Being a peacemaker, he would never murder an enemy, not even the horrible ones like M. Bison, or do more harm to someone than is required. His pacifist views also enable Dhalsim to become a very devoted husband and a father to his family. Dhalsim is a very kind person who devotes his life to helping the underprivileged and the downtrodden. He works tirelessly to generate funds for impoverished people. Dhalsim regularly reflects on his decisions to utilize his powers for combat, since he knows that if he employs them for harm, he might turn evil. Dhalsim possesses a more mature and much less enthusiastic nature than Ryu, who is portrayed as a young person who is still profound and self-focused. He frequently uses his conventional yoga meditation meditation rituals to deepen his spirituality, as well as maintain his inner impartiality in the face of mental involvement that could compromise his strictness. Dhalsim never wavers from his composure. He's constantly in a state of concentration as he fights, which allows him to concentrate on his foe. He seldom communicates with his opponent other than to call his strikes, and whenever he does, Dhalsim's words are mysteries that make the opponent unsure of who they are. Despite his strict spiritual discipline, Dhalsim still experiences anger and irritation from time to time. He harbors resentment toward Balrog for assassinating one of the consecrated elephants while practicing the gigaton blow. He's visibly irritated by Rufus's constant pointless chatter after Rufus mistook him for an alien. Dhalsim's name derives from an Indian eatery named Dhal's in Osaka, close to Capcom's headquarters. Dal is lentils, while Shim is hyacinth beans. The eatery is no longer open for business though. His Street Fighter II stage features an image of Ganesha in the background, and his fifth alternative outfit in Ultra Street Fighter IV is similar to him. According to Street Fighter II's lead designer Akira Nishitani, the Ripple Zoom punch move from the manga series JoJo's Bizarre Adventure served as the inspiration for Dhalsim's ability to extend his limbs. This is reiterated in the biography of Dhalsim in the Street Fighter X Tekken Artworks, Artbooks Remark section. Dhalsim earns the respect of the people during Street Fighter Alpha 2, raising money to preserve his town and earning the moniker Great Yoga Master Dhalsim. Dhalsim wonders what good can possibly result from utilizing his abilities for violence though. He goes out to eliminate the malicious M. Bison in Street Fighter Alpha 3. He encounters Birdie and Rose while traveling the globe and utilizes his mind control abilities to look for solutions. He's to blame for Cammy White's self-awareness, which sets her free from Bison's influence. Later, he faces Bison and obliterates Chandalu's headquarters, though this isn't regarded as canon. When Dhalsim competes in the Street Fighter II tournament to generate funds for his town, he discovers that it goes against his pacifist principles. After the second World Warrior competition, Dhalsim gives up fighting and travels the globe, assisting those in necessity. In the Street Fighter IV series, Dhalsim makes a comeback, this moment to let the water flow to his town post-SIN constructs a dam that goes upstream. Dhalsim's son Data corresponds with Guile's daughter Amy. Dhalsim realizes the situation is worse than he had anticipated when Data tells him that his pen pal's dad is abroad on an assignment to examine a dam. Although he's hesitant to utilize his abilities for his own benefit, he feels driven to defend his people. Dhalsim travels to the competition that SIN was planning. In the midst of a skirmish at the competition, Rufus approaches and asks Dhalsim about his yoga. He beats Seth after taking care of Rufus. Water flows back into the settlement once the dam foundation is demolished at the game's conclusion. Dhalsim acknowledges that the kindness in humankind's heart is also eternal, despite his belief that Chandalu embodies an evil in humankind that can never truly be vanquished. Mahesh, a policeman, approaches Dhalsim in Street Fighter V's The Path of a Yogi and asks to learn the yoga techniques. Mahesh responds, "I want to become very strong, to protect my people in the same manner that Dhalsim does." When Dhalsim asks him why he wants to learn, the yoga master responds, however, that yoga is not intended to be used for power or aggression. Rather, it's supposed to promote peace and understanding. This surprises Mahesh, but Dhalsim eventually decides to tutor the aspiring police officer. However, Rashid and Azam arrive and interrupt them. Rashid is thrilled to be in the company of one of the 7 yoga teachers you must meet at least once, as it was written online. Rashid's remarks leave Dhalsim perplexed, and Mahesh irately informs the couple that the yoga instructor is occupied. When asked why he wants to duel with Dhalsim, Rashid responds that he must grow stronger. He's incapable of bettering himself, and he inevitably loses. He asks Dhalsim if he has seen his companion before departing in vain. Then he and Azam leave. Shortly after, when Dhalsim demonstrates his pyrotechnics to Mahesh, Oro approaches him and remarks that the yoga instructor's skills are peculiar. Mahesh, who was perched in the air similar to Dhalsim, was taken aback and inquired whether Oro was familiar with yoga. Oro chuckles and responds that Mahesh has a lot to learn. Dhalsim explains how he never imagined he would run across Oro in India and how shocked he was to meet the elderly elderly monk whom he'd once known in his former life. Oro responds that he came to explore because he felt intriguing people were there. He also asks Dhalsim why he is teaching a new student rather than developing his own abilities. Dhalsim replies that improving his own abilities is a secondary objective for him, since he feels that achieving harmony would lead him down the right road in life. Humorously commenting that Dhalsim has not changed since their last meet, Oro makes the decision to go after, noticing another intriguing individual nearby. He bids Dhalsim goodbye and requests that the yoga teacher cook curry for him when they next meet. Mahesh tries his best to practice inhaling flames, but fails. When Mika shows up, Dhalsim again interrupts his instruction to reprimand him for his impatience. Mika presents herself and says she wants to learn to breathe fire like him because she thinks it would help her wrestle better and excite the crowd. Although Dhalsim concurs, Mika is incapable of breathing fire. Dhalsim tells her not to give up since she has the desire to light her fire one day. Mika leaves after taking the teaching in stride. Finally though, barely, Mahesh can breathe fire. He's told not to worry since Dhalsim will be happy to instruct Mahesh for as long as required. The warrior prophet, an Aztec warrior priest from a site known as Ancient Altar, predicts that during the next hour of battle, Nikali would engage in combat with Dhalsim, who's alluded to as the one who serves the god of fire, and to swallow his soul. Karan, her squire Shibazaki, and Birdie unexpectedly drop by as Dhalsim teaches Mahesh the basics of teleportation during Karan's character tale. The youthful head of the Kanzuki family traveled to see Oro after learning of his presence in India a few days earlier. He informs her that the master of Senjutsu has been gone for a few days, but Karan immediately resolves to fight Dhalsim, who is not prepared for the unexpected occurrences. After a protracted battle in which neither party prevails, they each compliment one another on their individual talents, Karan's pure fist and Dhalsim's knowledge of yoga, before the yoga guru teleports off to continue instructing his students. Sometime in the evening, Oro plays Dhalsim a visit in the Street Fighter V side story Musings on a Still Night for a cordial chat and some food. He starts by letting go of Dhalsim's somber enthusiasm and unwavering commitment as he muses with the yoga guru about the nature of strength and how much force is used in the realm of street combat and martial arts. The Senin explains and examines with Dhalsim how certain powers, although having various bounds and origins of expression, ultimately have an origin and a common source. He does this by giving him instances of ki as well as the Satsui no Hado. Despite their evil intentions, Satsui no Hado, as well as the Psycho power, ultimately possess a neutral base and the capacity for good in each of their respective ways, just like all the other ideas of power. Oro teaches Dhalsim the prudent lesson that insight of such a power ought to be used for good whenever evil intends to abuse it, noting that such limits are as replaceable as the skies and the seas, and that fish and birds are capable of breaching both domains while still being as intricate as a Kalabi Yao structure. A monk and a yoga teacher from India, who already has guided many suffering lives, prefer to stay out of fights whenever feasible in Street Fighter VI, but Dhalsim must administer severe punishment because of his inborn hate of wickedness. Dhalsim is a playable character in SNK vs. Capcom SVC Chaos, Mark of the Millennium 2001 EO, and Millennium Fight 2000, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, and Marvel vs. Capcom 2 all have Dhalsim as a playable character. In Street Fighter X Tekken, Dhalsim and Sagat are playable characters. Sagat learns from a peasant while practicing by a waterfall that the little girl he previously saved has vanished. Dhalsim comes before him and begs a favor while informing him about missing kids from his own town as he hears the girl's brother's cries for assistance. The two resolve to hunt together for Pandora since they think its power might be able to lead them to the missing children. When the two finally make it to the Antarctic and discover the lost kids, Pandora appears before them. Pandora is supposed to be a force to match the gods. Dhalsim informs Sagat, "A king has no use for the box," Sagat concludes, and the two go into the distance while Pandora closes in behind them. One of the opponents of Street Fighter X Mega Man is Dhalsim. There are some interesting trivia related to Dhalsim as well. Let us quickly find out some some of those amusing facts. One of the 11 selectable Street Fighter characters who are either married or dating is Dhalsim. Super Street Fighter 4 has modified Dhalsim's rival battle stage, despite the fact that he still has the same opponent as in Street Fighter 4. Originally called the crowded downtown stage, it was later renamed the exciting street scene stage. This was because the latter stage was situated in India, which is Dhalsim's country of origin and hence better suited to him. One of the very few characters from the original Street Fighter 4 game, Dhalsim only has one opponent throughout the entire sub-series, in this case, Rufus. A monster with the colors of Dhalsim with the name of Yoga Giganox may be found in Monster Hunter Explore. Although his victory speech in Street Fighter 2, "I will meditate and then destroy you," appears to go against his pacifist principles, this was before it was known that he had such views. Turban wear is a prestige symbol in several Western and South Asian nations, although it is most prevalent in India. Turban ornamentation is a common fashion statement in India's western and northern states. This fits well with Dhalsim's general appearance, which bears a striking resemblance to a royal from a western or a northern Indian state. What makes Dhalsim so strong? Most people refer to Dhalsim's fighting technique as yoga. Strangely, the Street Fighter 2 instructions for the Genesis and SNES versions of the game incorrectly labeled Dhalsim's fighting style, non-canon, as kabaddi, an Indian sport. The fighting skills of an Indian combatant in the 1976 movie Master of the Flying Guillotine, starring Jimmy Wang Yu, are similar to those of Dhalsim. The warrior in the film had identical combat skills to Dhalsim and could stretch his limbs to strike. Dhalsim is the first long-range fighter in video games. Because of his rigorous training, he can bend and expand his legs and arms into positions that are physiologically impossible for the average person. He has the ability to teleport and extend his legs and arms forth to keep a distance from his adversary while making assaults which would be impossible for conventional limbs to make. Dhalsim can exhale fire in a variety of ways as well. Capcom of Japan transformed this into a boon from Agni, the Hindu god of fire, as well as a later English manual for Super Street Fighter 2 for the Super Nintendo states that the fires stem from his prowess in fully unlocking his latent Kundalini powers in his training. In earlier releases, Capcom USA tried to claim that Dhalsim's potential to respire fire probably stems from his intake of curry. However, Gukin speculates in Street Fighter 4 that it could actually be an energy-based skill. This could also clarify Seth's aptitude to use parts of Dhalsim's techniques. However, it is simply as probable that he's more closely imitating Bison's teleport. Dhalsim's fire is a fallacy that he controls with the aid of the deity Agni, claims his official bio on the Japanese Street Fighter V website. In the Udon comics, the pyrotechnics won't damage an individual if they deem they would not be burnt. He shows this by surrounding Ardon in fire and using the latter's surprise to knock him unconscious once he realizes he's not getting all burned. In Super Street Fighter 4, he also reassures Hakan that his blaze is simply an illusion and will not burn his oil after beating him. Additionally, after defeating Dhalsim, Zangief bragged that Dhalsim's imagined flames could not stand a chance against his actual muscles. Seth made an identical boast in the original Street Fighter 4. Dhalsim's general fighting strategy entails keeping the adversary at a distance using projectiles and distance assaults, only approaching to strike with an unexpected aerial attack or slide kick. Dhalsim needs to avoid taking too many punches from a powerful opponent because he has a meager offense and defense. Dhalsim leaps with lengthy airtime, making it easy for him to evade missiles and rushes, but his slowness in the air and on the ground makes him susceptible to a patient adversary. However, Dhalsim can easily attack and build up a number of unclear situations that will confound the opposition. As of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, the player can make Dhalsim only perform short-range strikes by holding back on the control stick. In addition to his stretching and fire breathing, Dhalsim has a slow-motion suspended jump that enables him to surprise opponents with mid-air attacks. Dhalsim's sprite is truly quite a small target while standing due to the overall amount of of pixels it takes up while not assaulting, he becomes a significantly greater challenge while attacking. He may also use his airborne teleport to evade enemies who try to knock him down in the air. His super combos frequently feature strong flame attacks, the Yoga Inferno being the most popular of these. He may even direct the Inferno upward in some games. This form is called the Yoga Volcano. The Yoga Strike is another somewhat typical super combo in which Dhalsim grabs a distant enemy and throws them to the ground with his extended limbs. Dhalsim's new Ultra combos in the Street Fighter 4 games maintain this pattern. The Yoga Catastrophe, which is identical to the Metsu Hadoken but recovers nearly quickly, is his first Ultra combo and offers several cross-up combo options. His second Ultra combo, Yoga Shangri-La, is an airborne grab that targets an opponent who's on the ground. If successful, he uses the momentum provided by his stretched limbs to headbutt the opponent repeatedly. Dhalsim possesses one of the very few personal actions that genuinely affect gameplay and also has the largest range with his focus attack. In Street Fighter V, he can spew fire at an adversary while in mid-air thanks to his V-trigger, the Yoga Burner, which functions similarly to his Yoga Flame. His V-skill, the Yoga Float, involves floating mid-air while striking an opponent. Dhalsim inhales and expands his belly, declaring that the Yoga Catastrophe, his first Ultra combo in Street Fighter 4, is now his critical art. Then he spits a large, slow-moving ball of fire that strikes the opponent. Dhalsim gently spins around like a corkscrew in mid-air before falling to earth. Dhalsim can float and teleport in front of or behind his adversaries. The opponent was set ablaze by the short flame burst, which was also known as the Yoga Fire. The lengthier, more potent flame attack, known as the Yoga Flame, is sometimes delivered with a deep, long-voiced flame sound. Among Dhalsim's well-known win quotes are peace and tranquility. This is the way of yoga. The mind can often be a more formidable weapon than the body. Shed your ego and become a part of what is around you. Awaken, and a friend, no matter how weak or poor, is worth dying for. Marvelous appearances of Dhalsim in other media. Dhalsim is shown in the American animated show Street Fighter cartoon as being like his film adaptation. A seasoned scientist who grudgingly worked for Shadaloo, after surviving the demolition of Bison's headquarters with Blanca, he makes an effort to make amends by cooperating with the Street Fighters. Since then, he has given up science in favor of yoga and the search for spiritual enlightenment, developing the in-game abilities of teleportation, limb stretching, and fire breathing as a result. Dhalsim, who appeared 5, resides in an isolated Indian hamlet. To find out more about the ways of Heidu, Ryu and Ken pursue him. He first declines them, but eventually changes his mind. With his guidance, Ryu was able to learn the Hadoken, while Ken was able to learn the Shoryuken. In the video game-themed Disney movie Wreck-It Ralph, Dhalsim makes a very brief appearance as one of the pictures in Tappers. Dhalsim is a knowledgeable and powerful mystic who helps Ryu in his desire to get stronger so that he might get revenge on his teacher without being taken over by the Satsui no Hado. He also teaches Sagat how to battle with sportsmanship, compassion, mental control, and regard for the well-being of the opponent. When Ryu eventually runs across him while trying to find a method to get stronger so that he can beat Akuma, he informs Ryu that he's battling with fury and sorrow in his fist and instructs Ryu on how to fight more effectively. At the conclusion of the Sakura Ganbaru manga, Dhalsim, his wife, and Relento make a brief appearance and express their displeasure at being absent. The only actors from SFA2 who did not feature at all in Sakura Ganbaru or the Street Fighter Alpha manga were Relento and Dhalsim. Marvelous verdict. Overall, Dhalsim is a terrible mashup of Hindu and Indian cliches that are based sporadically on intriguing actual events. Shame that not many people are aware of it, and all that remains of Dhalsim is one elderly yogi. Despite being one of the theoretically more powerful characters, polymorph, flight, holy fire breath, teleport, psychic powers, etc., etc. Unless the entire purpose is that he stands the test of time, his actions actual ability because he is a pacifist, his hustle and playstyle are actually very poor, and they need to improve what he can accomplish in other games. On the surface, he is still a poorly developed character who needs a lot of further development. Although his positions as Ryu's mentor and Sagat's buddy in the comics, as well as games, give him a meaningful contribution to the story, his rivalries with Balrog, who murdered his elephant, as well as M. Bison, the one who sent Cammy to assassinate him, but she was rescued due to Dhalsim's telepathic strength, were never addressed in SFV. If you like our content, please don't forget to leave a like and do subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and do be safe. Thank you.